All right, welcome everybody. We will just get started in a moment. We have close to 100 attendees. We're going to give just a few minutes for everyone to attend. This session is being recorded. We will also be presenting for about 30 minutes total to leave ample time for Q&A. But welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time. Kristen, just to double check, screen share is still there?
It is.
Okay.
So I guess we'll get started. Hi, I'm Stephanie Choi on behalf of the California Access to Justice Commission. Welcome to the webinar, Data Security Advancing Access to Justice. So this webinar is all about not reinventing the wheel. Given all the great things that are going on with these innovation infrastructure grants, the grantees sharing information with you today have developed tools that are on the cutting edge of data collection and portrayal, have already wrestled with the difficult issues of data security, and identified useful tools and strategies in the process. So today they've graciously agreed to share their information so you can all benefit from their technical expertise and trailblazing work. There's a lot of content, so please hang on to your hats. There is, as Bart said earlier, plenty of time for questions and discussions. Please, throughout the webinar, use the chat function to share your thoughts and questions, and the speakers will respond after the presentations. The webinar recording and slide deck will be made available after the presentation. So it's with immense admiration and gratitude that I introduce our speakers to you. Dayanara Salazar with Otro Lado, Kristen Henderson, the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, and Bart Skarupa, Mobile Pathways, who brings to us this technical expertise to legal services and who is really the architect of this webinar. So thank you, Bart. I'm going to get out of the way and ask the speakers to introduce themselves. Dayanara, do you want to start?
Sure, of course. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Dayanara Salazar. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a data and policy analyst at Otro Lado. Just very briefly, we are a binational legal services and immigrants' rights organization serving immigrants, asylum seekers, and deported persons in the U.S. and Mexico through a holistic, client-centered, and harm reductionist approach.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Henderson. I am the legal program coordinator at the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies in San Francisco. Our work focuses on defending the rights of asylum seekers in the United States, which we do through a few approaches, including impact litigation, policy and advocacy, and our training and technical assistance program, which we'll talk about more in a bit.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bartome, or Bart's much easier. I'm one of the co-founders and development director of Mobile Pathways, and we help immigration nonprofits, advocates, and attorneys use mobile technology and data to help underserved immigrants in court. And I'm going to kick off one of the first of the three presentations of how our organizations are using data and technology. We're going to present for about 8 minutes each, and we have ample time for Q&A, so please do keep the questions coming. So without further ado, the challenge that we are addressing, all of us as organizations, is there's been an immense rise in the number of immigrants in court. As you can see, it's gone up 400% in the state of California, while the number of immigration attorneys, accredited reps, paralegals has remained relatively stagnant. This is the same trend nationwide and predominantly driven by the number of newcomers, asylum seekers. And for those that don't know, immigration is a civil matter, which means you have to pay for immigration representation out of your own pocket. And unsurprisingly, most immigrants can't afford that, especially if you think about an asylum seeker fleeing persecution. It is not something that they can readily afford, which is what we're using mobile technology and data across our organizations to address. About a year ago, I had the privilege of presenting on this webinar of this tool called Asylum Navigator, which allowed immigration advocates, attorneys, paralegals to mix and match variables about asylum seekers in court. And in this photo, about a year ago, our program director, Ana Villegas, was at the border showing it to asylum seekers directly. And we watched and observed how they were playing and toying around with the information, trying to learn how to improve their outcomes in the immigration court system. And that's what gave the birth to the idea of Pathfinder, which I'm going to show today, and then tell you how we keep it secure and private, because you will see it does reveal a lot about immigrants in court. So using the same underlying data and technology structure of Asylum Navigator, Pathfinder leverages something every immigrant has, myself included. It's called an A number, and I'm going to show a live demo. So I am now an immigration attorney. I'm an immigration accredited rep working at a nonprofit. It could be a caseworker at a shelter welcoming asylum seekers. And using that one number in real time, Pathfinder starts to pull information from publicly available government sources to explain what is happening with that immigrant's case in court. And as you'll see here, this is actually happening in real time. Always nervous when the live demo runs, and it does take about 30 seconds to a minute, because it does include FOIA information, and you can see how quick it works. So you now have information about their next hearing, who the judge is. You know about their background, the number of riders. Most immigration cases are families. They're coming here with other people, the types of applications they have, their employment authorization. An asylum seeker has to wait 150 days to apply to work. We keep track of that and notify them when they're eligible for a work permit, and all of their case history. Some of the immigrants and our partners that are working with them have been here for 4 and then 10 years of their case. Our biggest outlier is actually 36 years that they've been in immigration court. So these case histories can get quite long. The motions, the appeals, information about the judge, who appointed them, how many years they've been on the bench, where they studied. It helps you as an immigration practitioner better understand how to guide whether they're newcomers to California or have been here for decades, and help them get their case. In short, an immigration attorney and accredited rep may spend 30 minutes up to 5 hours, have to file FOIA requests for what we can now provide in seconds. And if you're an immigration nonprofit and would like to start using this, it went live last week. You can go to pathfinder.mobilepathways.org and get started. And when we show this to our partners, we built this in conjunction with immigration nonprofits and attorneys over the past year. They were wowed, and then they were equally worried, because with one number, you could provide so much information. There's some personal identifiable information, some PII in this. So what I'd like to talk about now, and as the course of the webinar, is, well, how do we ensure that this data is readily available to those that need it, providing digital agency to the immigrants and asylum seekers who could use it, but keeping it safe. And so at Mobile Pathways, we do have a chief data officer, Ben Mann, and this is what he calls his virtuous circle. We have a data policy that is governed by a process and enforced by a culture. I'm going to go into a little bit of details, and then I'm going to share with you some free resources you can start using right away to follow the same cycle. So we do have a data policy. We have a written document, many pages long. It goes into who we allow access, how we keep the data segregated, how we keep it secure, what would happen if we got subpoenaed in a potentially adversarial government administration. And it's great. It's a standing and fixed point document, but it has to evolve. It's never a single point in time. It's a living and breathing document. That's where the process comes in. So as an example of that, when Pathfinder went live, we had to make sure it was only available to accredited immigration attorneys, immigration nonprofits, and we have had bad actors, we think, we don't know, but we've seen some people sign up. We're watching that. We have a process. We use Slack. We actually use the enterprise version of Slack because it's much more secure than the general Slack, to see and monitor who's using it to ensure that information is safeguarded and kept secure. And most importantly, we talk about this at board meetings. We talk about this in staff meetings. We talk about this in one-on-ones. We are constantly driving and building a culture of people to keep this data safe, secure, but accessible to those who need it. So you may be thinking, well, great, but I'm a smaller immigration nonprofit. I'm a legal aid nonprofit. How do I afford that? You don't have to necessarily have it on staff. Here are 3 resources you can use right now to start upping your data security and privacy game. First of all, board.dev. Board.dev works with technology companies, corporate entities, and they have AI, data, experts that are looking to join boards of immigration, or not even just any legal aid nonprofits such as yourselves. You can go on their website, you can fill out a form. You could at least, and you really, really should, I would strongly recommend on your board or your board of advisors, you do have a data expert. You can use board.dev to start finding that today. TechSoup Step. How good is your process? That's where TechSoup Step can come in and help validate. We went through a TechSoup Step. It's an audit essentially of your data. It's all your processes, but it does have a very strong focus on data, your operational. I would strongly recommend for any organization that wants to show an external audit of their data practices to consider TechSoup Step. I'm also proud to say that we scored the highest possible ranking on data security. And in fact, Ben has a training video on their website now after our audit by TechSoup Step. And then finally, DataKind. DataKind allows nonprofits to go on to their website and post a project. You need a pro bono data resource. If you want to start dabbling in AI or see what this hype is all about, DataKind can help you with that with skilled resources. There are a lot of projects out there, but you can start getting those resources onto your staff, onto your team, and again, creating that culture of data security and safety. And before I pass it over to Dayanara, I want to leave you with one story about the culture. Showed this image earlier when we went live with Asylum Navigator, and we wrote a blog, and Anna wrote her detailed findings in this blog about the asylum seekers who are using Asylum Navigator. And just before that blog went public, somebody saw, wait a minute, you didn't blur out those faces. We had a policy of never having children in our photos. We had a policy of blurring out children's faces. Never had a policy about adults. And that was caught by Anna. Unfortunately, before we went live and shared on social, we realized these people were in vulnerable situations. So even if you have the best policies and top-notch processes, you still have to have those people that are on the front lines and saying, wait, stop, that's not right. You got to protect and still share. So thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it to Diana.
Thanks, Bart. So as I mentioned earlier, Otro Lado provides holistic client-centered support. Specifically, we combine our social services case management with legal assistance, recognizing that legal outcomes are shaped by factors beyond just whether or not someone has legal representation. However, in the pursuit of us trying to provide effective social work services, we recognize that we did not have a dedicated social work platform system database. As great as our legal case management system is for conducting and tracking legal work, if we were to capture social work activities in our legal platform, we would risk multiple things. One, access control, meaning that legal staff would have access to sensitive information intended for our case managers only. And that could be particularly actually physical and mental health information, right? That was told in confidence to our case managers. Two, data misclassification, meaning that social work referrals, notes, resources, or anything similar to that may be and could be accidentally misclassified or categorized under legal work, and vice versa, where legal work could be accidentally classified or categorized as social work, which would then skew our reporting. And the third one, it came down to privacy. Our case managers spent countless hours trying to build trust, build rapport with our clients, creating a safe space which allows them to be vulnerable, that we wanted to respect our case manager client relationship and preserve the confidentiality of the information that is being shared among them. So what we did is to solve our sort of dilemma in terms of where we can store, manage, analyze, et cetera, our social work information, we reflected upon our organizational goals with respect to direct client services. We reviewed our grant reporting requirements because that's just something that as an organization, we cannot put at the back of our minds. And three, but most importantly, we consulted with our case managers, the ones who are interacting with clients on a day-to-day basis, as they are experts in their fields, to hear from them what client data would be absolutely necessary in order to meet clients' basic needs and improve their overall well-being. And similarly, how we could use that client data to show the impact of what our case managers are doing. And so for us, our solution, our dedicated social work platform is Apricot. Apricot allowed us to focus on client management and service impact. It allows us to customize various aspects and features of the platform, such as a client profile on display, as well as other forms and reporting templates. From the questions asked to the types of questions to how the responses are being reported, whether that's open text, single select, or multi-select questions, to the wording and ordering of the questions and the creation of various sections within the client profile, it was all customizable. Plus, it met our data security concerns regarding compliance, privacy, regulation, and security. And it is flexible enough that we can adjust the platform as our program grows and changes in the future so that our platform actually reflects the current state of the program, of the case management program, that is. So when we built and tailored our Apricot system, we built it to and tailored it to work for us in a way that we could effectively gather and collect the client information that we needed in order to ensure that we were providing effective client services. And so one of the most important things we did in Apricot was update our case management needs assessment to capture clients' non-legal situation. We understand that issues such as transportation issues or housing instability, for instance, can impact whether a client has the capability to participate in a legal proceeding or receive legal case documents in a safe location. So we designed our needs assessment to provide us with deeper insights into various aspects of client well-being. And for us, that meant creating a baseline understanding of what that situation or context is or was, and asking follow-up questions that will allow us to evaluate the access to and the quality of multiple things, which could include education, transportation, interpersonal relationships, nutrition, healthcare, housing, employment, and so on and so forth. When we integrated the assessment into Apricot, we made sure to set the appropriate user permissions, control for information access, hitting all of the data security points, while also standardizing our tailored questions and answer choices, along with allowing folks to include questions that capture client narratives that would really help us understand the client situation and narrow in on individual client needs. So visually, what this means is that we can create a reporting template and data visualization that makes it easy to communicate and understand any observed patterns or trends in our client needs. For instance, on the left, we created a report that demonstrates an overview of our client needs based on the needs assessment. So in our needs assessment itself, we created a section where the case managers can say, client, based on everything you told me about your housing, your shelter, employment, et cetera, it seems like you can benefit from assistance with regard to housing, shelter, employment, et cetera. And so that's the summary on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we created another report that provides us with a little bit more granular insight into the specific needs of our clients. So if we were to take the housing and shelter questions, we can see what the housing and shelter situation is that clients find themselves. And we can also see how they responded to questions about their perceived safety within that context. So again, our case managers are establishing that baseline understanding of what the client situation is, while also allowing for them to evaluate the access to and the quality of the client's housing and shelter. So in other words, basically what Apricot allowed us to do is it allowed us to compare client needs against any potential service gaps in our case management program. But I know I've been talking about this in relation to the goals of AOL's case management program and its objectives, right? But in the greater scheme of things, this platform has helped us create a robust program feedback loop where our clients are the driving force shaping our case management program. And two, and I think a little bit more importantly, is the visualizations that we are able to derive from the needs assessment and all of our case management activities through the Apricot system allow us to simplify data sets that would otherwise be complex in a way that brings everyone on the same page, regardless of where their technical skill levels are, which when we forefront these visualizations is really powerful in championing immigrant rights with utter awareness as to what the socioeconomic conditions of folks find themselves as they are attempting to pursue different forms of legal avenues. And with that, I will now turn it over to Kristen.
Thanks, Diana. Hi, everyone. As mentioned earlier, I'm going to delve into our technical assistance, also called TA, program today, and then talk about our approach to data security. So our TA program seeks basically to amplify our impact by providing assistance to attorneys representing individuals in asylum proceedings nationwide. So this includes litigation support materials, providing those for free, doing individualized case consultations to talk about issues that arise, and doing free trainings and webinars on asylum and fear of return related topics. So we share the resources on our site for free so that anyone, any advocate working on an asylum case can access them. And here's how that works. So basically, the representative would submit a case intake on our website, which collects basic information about their applicant in order for us to serve them the most relevant materials. Then they are provided instant access to what we call our TA library, which is a resource library that contains all of our litigation support materials, such as country conditions, memos, universal expert declarations, and sample materials, and much more. Then after submitting a case, the representative can also search what we call our expert witness database, which is a database of referrals for experts that are interested in serving as expert witnesses in immigration court, such as country conditions experts on certain countries, mental health experts, et cetera. We also provide trainings, as I mentioned before, free trainings and webinars that people can attend. And kind of our intention is that after accessing this assistance and supporting your case, we hope that our users come back after a decision has been rendered to submit what we call a case outcome on our site. This helps us understand what's going on in asylum offices and immigration courts and appellate courts nationwide. And then we incorporate those insights into our materials. So if we hear about a lot of climate cases coming out of a certain country, then we can look into whether we provide country conditions resources to support that. Obviously, there's a lot of new policies that are coming up that impact asylum seekers and their right to justice. And so we produce trainings and webinars on those as we see those issues come up in cases. So we kind of visualize this as a cycle, hence this graphic, that people can access our materials and then also help others empower the entire representative advocate community by submitting outcomes. So to give you a scope of the amount of information that we, can I go back one? Yeah, so to give an idea of like the amount of data that we have on our site, we have been providing technical assistance for 25 years, since our founding 25 years ago. And we provided TA in over 65,000 cases to our 30,000 plus users. And we've also collected more than 14,000 case outcomes. Now we can, next slide, thank you. Which is a lot of data. Like that's just overall a lot of data, a lot of sensitive data. So that poses some challenges, and data security is like a #1 priority for us. So to begin with, we don't collect personally identifiable information on individual asylum seekers, and we also work closely with our web developers to ensure that our site is secure and monitoring constant security threats. We also want to deter misuse of our site, and this could include people accessing our materials to use them against the rights and interests of asylum seekers in proceedings. So this kind of like leads to like a core tension in our work, which is that we want to share the information that we've collected as much as possible to empower attorneys and to help the community overall. We want to centralize information and data that we collect, and we also want to enhance transparency so that people can understand better what kind of environment they're going into when they go to court. But of course, we also don't want to share too much information with too many people in case there is any sort of misuse. So part of the misuse that we fear is that we share a lot of strategic advice for advocates representing individuals. And if that strategic advice were to be provided to opposing counsel, then it could be used against the individual and undermine their case. So we're also very aware of the risks of asylum seekers' personal information being shared. And I want to give a few examples. So the first is that in 2023, ICE released on their website publicly personally identifiable information on thousands of asylum seekers that were in their custody. This information including their names, date of birth, country of origin, etc. This information can be lethal in the hands of those who, their home governments, for example, that they're fleeing from and they're making claims against. So while obviously this was, ICE's mistake and it didn't have to do with our core work, we saw this as a reminder of how important it is to ensure that the personal information of asylum seekers and information on asylum adjudication trends is kept within our community and not leaked out. In kind of a similar vein, we also have received reports through outcomes of that DHS attorneys who are opposing counsel in immigration court cases have been putting together a coordinated effort to target certain expert witnesses in order to discredit them. So for this reason, in this use case, we really want to ensure that our materials that we share on expert evidence, including information on mitigating DHS challenges to expert evidence and how to submit expert declarations as evidence in court, we want to make sure that doesn't fall into the wrong hands, in the hands of opposing counsel, so that they could use those materials to undermine the attorney and the advocate in court. Next slide, please. So how do we mitigate this kind of core tension and make sure that the materials are going to the right people in a timely manner? Because obviously, sometimes there's deadlines coming up and we want people to be able to access our materials as quickly as possible for the right reasons. So we do this by controlling access to our resources. So anyone can sign up for our site and anyone can fill out a case intake for an individual case that we're working on. But we monitor our site activity closely. We look at new registrations every day. We look at all new case intakes and outcomes reports that we're seeing, and we look for patterns of misuse. And when we identify that, we reach out to the person to or take another kind of action if it's more severe, to let them know, just to ensure that they're complying with their terms of use and let them know about our terms of use. So we do that also to, ensure that they're not breaking our rules, but also so that we can show people that this is a monitored site, to really emphasize to them, we monitor this site closely, and if you want to use it, you need to follow our terms of use. Next slide, please. So that all said, what I mentioned earlier is super important to us and always on our minds, which is how do we avoid sharing information with the wrong people, but also while also making sure that we are sharing critically helpful information with the right people and not avoiding doing that because of the risk of bad actors. So one way that we are currently working to share information in a safe way is a new tool that our team is working on that will be incorporated into our core TA program. And this tool will allow advocates who are TA users to access aggregated information on certain adjudicators, so immigration judges, for example, that we have gathered over the last 25 years of collecting outcomes information. So this tool will allow access to aggregated, anonymized information about how that adjudicator has adjudicated certain cases in the past. So I've got some examples of the types of information that we collect and plan to share on the screen. So for example, when someone submits an outcome that's based on the merits of a case, we ask what types of protected grounds were considered. For those that don't do asylum immigration work, that's just kind of like the basis of the case. And basically, we collect that information, which one of the 5 grounds it is, and then we're able to see, kind of trends on grants and denials based on those. We also can drill down even farther and look at the specific articulations that were proposed under each of these protected grounds. So this example on the right here, is a table that kind of exemplifies the kind of information that we collect. So you can see that in this particular outcome, this immigration judge found a certain number of the particular social group articulations valid or cognizable, and then denied certain other ones. So attorneys who have this information can know going into court and preparing their case, how has this adjudicator treated cases similar in the past? Actually, in a similar vein, we also collect information on the types of harm that the applicant in the case either is fleeing or fears on return to their home country. So that, if you're an advocate and you're working on a gang violence case from Colombia, then you could see how your adjudicator has treated similar cases in the past and what types of arguments that they have been presented with. And then in the case of denials of relief, we also collect information on the rationale behind those denials. So was it denied based on nexus? Was it denied based on a bar to relief, like a criminal bar? Were there credibility issues and the immigration judge didn't think the individual was credible? We share this information because we think it's important for people to understand, there's a million reasons why a case could be denied. And we think it's important for attorneys who are preparing a case to kind of understand how to structure their legal theory in order to maximize their chances of success. So we're currently working hard on this tool as a team, and we're hoping to launch it in the coming months. So I also wanted to offer that if anyone is interested in getting early access to this tool or providing feedback on the tool, you can join our focus group. To join our focus group, you can go to our site, cdrs.uclaw.edu, and go to our TA program news page, scroll down to the bottom, and there will be a link for a form to sign up. And that's it from me. Thank you all for listening, and I think we can open it up for any questions now.
Yeah, I have a couple questions here actually already in. So for anyone, if you could please chat in any questions, if you want to learn more about immigration in general, because it is a very unique field of law, or any about the tools, but I'll read out a couple. The first one to you, Kristen. So for the case tracker and all the outcomes, is that available only to immigration attorneys and nonprofits, or can pro bono attorneys or other contractors also get access?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our site and all of our materials are open to all types of attorneys for free. And nonprofits, pro bonos, private bar attorneys, everyone. And we do this obviously just to make sure that we're being equitable with our sharing our resources.
And just to provide some context to that too, for a lot of our partners that are immigration nonprofits, they rely heavily on the immigration attorney audience, but there's so few of them that they rely on lots of pro bonos that are tax accountants, lawyers, and they give these know your rights or crash course sessions. So there's a huge need for anyone that may be a pro bono attorney on here. Please do consider volunteering for an immigration nonprofit, because that's a big part of their wider workforce. Second question goes to me actually about Pathfinder. Does it include USCIS information or receipts? It does not at this point. So for anyone that's unfamiliar with immigration law, imagine a broken glass jar with lots of different pieces. There is so many departments, so many different, there's DHS, there's ICE, there's Executive Office of Immigration Review, there's USCIS, United States Citizen Immigration Services. Pathfinder currently gets a lot of information from the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which is under the Department of Justice. Those are people in what's called removal defense, immigrants that are like asylum seekers is one of the biggest, actually the biggest majority of that audience. And then there are more affirmative things of green card, citizenship, naturalization, appeals that comes from USCIS. It is possible to get that data. We are working on that. The Pathfinder currently describes where you're at in immigration court, and in the near future, we want to add USCIS information. Yes, the slides will be made available. I'm happy if whoever posted about what links, please do let us know. We've shared quite a few. I will go ahead as we're doing some more questions, because the next one is for you, Kristen. I'm going to post my links, the ones that I mentioned are the free resources and Pathfinder. Just some quick confusion that's happening. Some people are posting questions in chat. I'm seeing that. Some people are posting in Q&A. I'm seeing those too. However you want to ask a question, I can see both. So I'm switching back and forth. All right, next question for Kristen. Besides showing trends of what works before certain judges, will CGRS also support by helping attorneys who want to bring similar claims with sample materials?
So the answer is yes. That's actually a part of our core program work at Current. So we do share sample materials in our TA library. We're also hoping that by having this tool open to our TA users, that it will people will want to send us more sample materials to help other attorneys, and then we'll have even more great materials to share in our library to help others.
This one might be any lessons learned or what resources are needed for projects not considered. Because I think all of us, for the tools that we showed, did receive grant funding from the California Access Justice Commission. I'll go ahead and start with one lesson learned. When we first envisioned Pathfinder, and for those that may have not been on earlier, I'm just going to go back really. Oh, let me just go right here. Our first initial vision, when we actually just built the technology, we were thinking about it like Carfax. If anyone has used Carfax, you can go online and type in your car's VIN number, and anyone can get anyone's VIN number. I just looked under the car. And then here you go, the entire history of that car. And that was when our partners, when we started working with them, it's like, that's great. And it's going to help 98% of people. But those 2% of bad actors could be out there. They could want to resell. There's great value. We do offer Pathfinder on a fee basis to private immigration attorneys. And so that caused us to retool it. Like a lesson learned for us was simply because you can build something doesn't necessarily mean you should, because you have to think about safeguarding that information. Our original concept in the proposal was that with two numbers, an A number and a mobile number, we could give anyone access and information to their records. Can we do that technically? Yeah, we can. Should we do that ethically? Not yet. Technology is not there yet, but that was one big lesson learned for us building it, was just because you can build something doesn't necessarily mean you should, especially if there's no guardrails. Diana or Kristen, anything you want to share about lessons learned?
Yeah, sure. Actually, very similarly. So when we were in our process of deciding how we would be able to manage, collect, analyze like the social work client data that we currently had, we considered the technical skill of everyone who would be involved in or interacting with the platform that we were envisioning. We definitely considered that our case managers and our social workers did not necessarily have super advanced like data skills where they can create something out of thin air. So we needed to really take that into consideration, because if we were to decide on a platform that was not straightforward or not easily understandable, then that would defeat the purpose of the platform, right? And so that was a big lesson, right? We needed to consider exactly who would be interacting with it, what their level of comfort is, and then also just making sure that we had all the information from the get-go, so that when we started building out the platform, we knew exactly what we needed to map out and how we needed to map out. And that is not to say that, now that we built the platform Apricot in a way that we currently have, that we will not be able to change it or revisit it. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite, I would say. I would say when you're building anything or creating anything, it's very much a reiterative process, right? You build it one way one day, and then you revisit it 5 days, a week from now, a couple months from now, to make sure that it's still doing exactly what you intended it to do, and that it's still working for the people that are actually interacting with that platform.
Yeah, and I think Procedure S, I mean, this sounds cheesy, but we learn lessons every day with this tool. There's a high complexity level of this data, and we're kind of always trying to think about how best we can support attorneys and make information like clear and easily accessible. But we also had kind of a privacy wake-up call a few months ago when we discovered that one of our site users had breached our terms of use and was using our materials in a way that wasn't consistent with our terms of use. And we discovered like we really had no way to deter that. He'd agreed to our terms of use, but he had gone against it, and all we could do was take follow-up action. But to us, it's a wake-up call about like how even those in our community, while most everyone is trustworthy, there are some bad actors that may, still be able to access materials. So we have instituted some different monitoring protocols and have been able to crack down on some misuse. And that has been a lesson learned for us as we move forward with this visualization tool to make sure that we have solid internal protocols on how we're going to ensure that only the right people are accessing it.
I really want to echo that point, because Pathfinder's now been live for 2 weeks, and we did get already somebody signing up and ran a number. We don't think that they were authorized to. They signed up as John Doe, which was not a very clever way. That our team caught it really quickly, and we restricted access and are trying to get information about that individual, because one of the things that we learned and highly recommend, as Diana said, and as Kristen said, talk to your users, talk to the people, talk to the caseworkers. I talked to 2 immigration attorneys today using Pathfinder, and I'm learning things every day, as well as our team. But the bad actors are out there, and so that monitoring is necessary. And as anyone should know that's really worked in information technology for a while, anything going to online is tracked. So be careful. If you're trying to use a resource that's not yours, it's going to be tracked. And if John Doe is here, we know who you are. All right, I think that covers all the questions. I'm going to post the link for Kristen there to sign up for the focus group if anybody wants to try the CJRS. Sorry, I'm going to call it, what's the name of the tool? It's not the data visualizer.
We're basically calling it the data visualizer for now, but it will be
The CJRS data
yeah.
visualizer. And then we do have a survey. Thank you again for your time. Please double check as I'm writing this in, Diana, Kristen. Any other questions that I may have missed? All right, well, if not, thank you again, everyone, for your time. And Stephanie, I'll leave it to you.
Well, just thank you to all our speakers for setting aside the time to share information about the project. A lot of great things going on in the innovation and infrastructure grants, and encourage you all to talk to each other so that you know what's going on. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again for hosting us, Stephanie, and thank you and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you.